Hi everyone, it's Darlene. Welcome to this week's card. Today I'm using some vellum and a couple of different stamps. I'm going to start off with the Stampin' Up! Star Framelits, which is a new product in the annual catalog, as well as the Lawn Fawn Lucky Stars set and the Tiny Stars background from Hero Arts, which I use a lot. So I'm going to start off by taking two different sizes of my stars, and I'm going to layer them right on my Nina Solar White cardstock inside each other. And once I get them all set up, I'm going to put some Eclipse masking tape to hold them in place and run it through the Sizzix. Alright, so when I layer them both together, I get a nice little outline of a star. And this is what I'm going to use. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere this temporarily to a piece of scratch cardstock. And that's just going to hold it in place while I put some Versamark on it. And then I'll get some Enchanted Gold embossing powder. I love this embossing powder. It's by Ranger, and it's just it's kind of princess-like. It is sort of enchanted because it's very light gold. Anyway, so I'm going to heat that to set it, and then I'll remove it from the scratch cardstock. And you can see how pretty and sparkly it is. Alright, next I'm going to take a piece of vellum and I'm going to make it a little oversized so I can pick the area that I like the best. And I'm going to take my Tiny Stars background and put some Versamark on it, and I'll lay my vellum on it. Now this is just some vellum that I got at a craft store, and it's actually heavier weight than the basil cardstock that I ordered from Simon Says Stamp, and that was 25 pounds. So this has to be more than 25 pounds, so I would recommend getting something a little heavier. Anyway, so I've got this Stampin' Up! Heat tool, and it has two settings on it. It has a low and a high, which is why I love this heat tool. And whenever I use vellum and I'm embossing on it, I always use the low setting. It takes a lot longer to heat set your powder, but it barely warps the paper at all. So it's a great heat tool. Alright, so I'm going to take that smaller star, the inside star, and cut out a piece of the vellum with the star. I've got some Vellum Bond, which is just some adhesive for vellum. I'm going to put it on the back of this star, and I felt like a little too much of it came out, so I just took a tissue and I kind of wiped it up a little bit. And I'm going to adhere it right there, and because I used the inside star to cut the vellum, it fit in there just right. So I'm going to put it through my paper trimmer, and I'm going to cut it right at the edge of that star. So notice I positioned the star so that the top point was pointing upward in the north position, so that it all worked out with the side points to point so that I can trim the paper downward. And then I'm just going to take my scissors and manually cut out the top portion of the star. I noticed there was a little gap in my vellum, so I went ahead and put a little drop of that Vellum Bond in there just to hold it in place, because I didn't want it to come up at all. So I just squeezed it together with a tissue. And this Vellum Bond works pretty well. Now I've got a piece of black cardstock, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and I'm just positioning my stars so I can place my sentiment in the right spot. And I'm going to use some Versamark ink. This is the You Shine from Lucky Stars by Lawn Fawn, and some white embossing powder. I'm going to heat that to set it. And notice I heat the back to kind of flatten out the paper a little bit. And now I decided to use my Tombow Mono multi-glue to adhere this piece to the black cardstock. So I'm going to place it down there, and I cut it out, but I held it down for about a minute or so to make sure it didn't pop up anywhere and that it was securely in place. So because my vellum is only adhered on the star, I'm going to go ahead and wrap some black embroidery thread around the bottom, and that'll hold the bottom of my vellum in place. And then I just trimmed the excess there. And I'm just going to take my tape runner and put it on my black panel and place it onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch folded piece of cardstock. And then finally I'm going to take my embossing thread, or I'm sorry, embroidery thread, and form a bow, and then take a glue dot, and I usually fold my glue dot in half with a paper piercer, and I put it down where I want my bow to be, and then I just smush it right on there. And then just trim off the excess. And that's it. It's a pretty simple card. I think it came out really shiny and pretty, so I like it. I hope you enjoyed it. and I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.